Okay, guys, welcome to today's class. I hope you all can hear me and can see me. So we'll be continuing from yesterday's class, which we were discussing basics of JavaScript. Hopefully I will finish it up today. Then get into TypeScript. All right. So without much ado, I think how we're going to do today's class is that so that we will not be overwhelmed and tired. Just like yesterday that we did the 3 hours at a stretch. Today we're going to section it into first 45 minutes. Then we'll have a break for like 15 minutes. Then we'll come back. Then probably do another 1 hour. Then just as we go we'll figure out how we're going to do it that we won't get overwhelmed. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, share my slides. That will kick off from where we stopped yesterday. Entire screen. Okay. Share. All right. Please give me thumbs up if you can see my screen and you can hear me. All right, guys. So yesterday, yeah, good, great. Yesterday we got into the non-primitive data types in JavaScript, and we are discussing about the functions in array. So there are many functions in array, but we're going to we treated the map function. I was explaining the map function, and there are some other functions in array. So because of time limit and the things we're going to cover, so I'm going to limit to we dealt with array. I told you guys that sorry, I think let me the limit. Sorry, okay, hold on. I need to open the right code. It's allowed. Sorry, guys. Let me open the right code here. Okay, this is it. Okay, so I hope you can see my screen. So yesterday we talked about the map, um, the map. So let's continue. So I want us to look at we'll look at one function, one more function in array. Then we can just okay. So alright, what other important function we can be looking at? Okay, so let's look at filter function. Alright, let's filter. Okay, I want to look at filter. Okay, what does filter do? Filter returns array of element that meet a condition. Okay, like it returns array of elements that meets a condition. So if I do something like num filter, okay, now it also takes a function like the map, like the map function, like the map method. It takes a function like that also. So I will use arrow function like I showed you guys earlier. This is arrow function. I'm giving it arrow function. You know, in for the map, I did something. I defined the map method, right? Hope you guys can see my screen, right? So I defined the function mul, and I give it to map to run. Okay. Likewise, the same thing. I can do something like this in JavaScript. You can do things like this. I can do something like this. It will work. All right. I am writing a function while calling the filter function. So this is what we call the higher order function in JavaScript. There are higher order functions. Let me define it. Higher order function. They are functions that they are functions that take another function as an argument, or they return another function as a return value. Okay, we call them higher order functions. So in JavaScript, some inbuilt methods are like that. So just like the map and the map method of the array and the filter method of the array, and some other many of them takes functions. When you define function, you give it to them, they take it as arguments. All right. So what does this filter do? This filter, I will do something like, okay, I want to get all this our array. This is our number array 1, 2, 3. I want to get all numbers that are greater than 1. And in this array, all numbers that are greater than 1 is 2 and 3, right? So I want to get all numbers that are greater than 1. If I do something, to achieve that, I will do something like this. I will do return n greater than 1. n is the parameter of this my function here. All right, just like I defined it in this mul. All right, so the function you are giving to this filter, or even your map, the function you are giving to them must take a parameter, must take an argument or parameter. You must define the parameter in them, so that when that parameter you are defining inside it means that it symbolizes the elements of the array that you are acting, that the methods, the filter method or the map method is acting on them. So what it's going to do now is that it's going to return me the conditions, or the elements that meet this my condition are greater than 1. And if I console log, you'll see. Let me see. Okay, no. Let me get to my folder. Okay. Sorry, I need to. Okay, my terminal is misbehaving. Okay, so if I run, yeah, this is I think I need to okay, if I run it, yeah, as you can see, it returned 2 and 3. You know, it returned 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are the conditions, are the elements that are greater than 1. Okay, if I do greater than 2, it will return only 3 for me. If I do that now, you see it returned only 3 here. All right, so that is that. Hope you guys can see what I'm writing clearly. Like, hope it's big enough. Okay, I've increased it more, so that's that for the filter. Filter helps you to filter the elements, just like name says. So we're going to look at another. There are a lot of methods. So okay, yeah, sort. You can use sort to sort the. If I do now, like if I log my array, look at the array, my nums array here. If I log it, you see that it's just 1, 2, 3. If I run it, it's 1, 2, 3 arranged in okay. But if I let me do this here. If I bring 3 here and I put 2 here and I put 1 here, and let me put 4 here, let me put 1 here. Now you see they are not sorted, they are not arranged they are in a sorted manner. But if I do this here, let me console log it so that you see as it's not sorted here. But if I do this, if I do nums dot sorts and I run this console again, yeah, as you can see, the first one, the first console, it's not sorted. But after calling the sort method on it and I log it again, it's sorted itself. All right, so this sort method does not take any it doesn't take any function. You just call it. But yeah, it takes a function depending on. But for demonstration, I'm not going to give it a function. But there are some instances that you can give some function. Maybe you want to sort the elements based on some other parameters. You can give it function, but on a default level, you can't give it. You don't want to give it function, right? Just the numbers to sort for you. So I think that's that for. I don't think. Let's move over to objects. Okay, let's try some object methods. Let's say we have let's put a function here. If there's anything that you don't understand in any of my codes, you can let me know. Yeah, if I
Yes, sir. This recent code you wrote now, the name, age, are they variables or function?
yeah, on this
Or
object,
yes, yes.
yeah, they are variable. They are properties of the object. All right, I am defining an
Okay,
object, a
okay,
user object. Okay, and to
okay.
define a literal object in JavaScript, you give it you define it using the curly brackets, just like this.
So it's like an array.
No, it's not an array. You use these curly brackets to define your object. An array is like
Okay,
this. You use a block brackets
okay,
like this. All right.
okay,
Then you put your values like this on array.
okay,
You don't do something like this in array. It will give you problem. Or you don't do something like this in array. It will give you problem.
okay.
Okay, as you can see, it's throwing error. It doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. But
So does it mean, sorry, does it mean array is only for numbers?
no, arrays can be string. You can put anything there.
All right.
You can see it, right?
Yes.
So you can put number and string.
Mm,
Okay.
okay, sir.
So you can put. I can even put. object inside. You see the difference?
Yes.
Here I put this curly brackets before I this is just like an object I'm defining inside the array.
O- okay.
Okay, so but I can't do
Okay.
something like this now. So that's the thing about array. And so now for objects, object takes key value pairs. Object takes key value pairs. Like this is name, and this is name key, name key. All right, the name of this key is name. The value
Okay.
is this is a string. The name of this key is age. The value is 25. All right, the name of this key is admin. The value is true. It means that this is a boolean, this is a number, while this is a string.
The string.
Yeah.
Okay.
So guys, if you have any question, you can just unmute and speak, because as I am demonstrating, I may not see you raising your hand here. So if you have any question, you can just unmute immediately and speak, so that I will hear you and stop and attend to you. You understand? You can just unmute yourself and speak immediately. I will hear you, because as I'm coding on the screen here, I won't be able to see you raising your hand unless I hear a beep. So I prefer if you just unmute yourself and ask immediately. I will stop and attend to you. So this my user in this my user object. This is the name. These are the properties here, and this this last property here is greet. Greet is the name of the key. All right. The value is a function. So object can take any kind of key value pair. The keys are usually variables. Then the values can be anything in JavaScript, anything. Okay, now if you notice, I did something like this. Like I told you guys, this is a template literal. This thing that I defined with backtick here is a special string. All right, and why I did that is because I want to access this name here, this name property here on this function. So, and if you notice, I use this keyword. I use this dot name. What I'm saying is that I want to access from here. I want to access the instance of this object, and the property is name. I can also access this dot age. Okay, because I'm running it inside this function. All right, this will work. Okay, so that is it. Now if I want to now access any key inside the user object, let me access the greet method. Now you see I put when I am calling the method, is a function, is a method, so I need to call it. Okay, if I want to access just like age, I don't need to call it because it's just normal variable. It doesn't it's not callable. It's not a function to be called or a method. All right, so I can do that. Let me call age here. So if I run my console, let me see that nothing else. Okay, let me comment out these ones. If I run it, you see I got the age, which is 25. Then this method ran hello John Doe. All right, our name here is John Doe, so it accessed it hello John Doe. So then let's call some methods in our object. So look at what will happen now. If I do object dot keys, now object is a keyword in JavaScript. All right, capital O objects. So if I give it this user now, this user object I defined up here, if I give it this user and I call it, let me console log what is going to show me so that you guys will see. If I console log, you're going to see some things. Okay, this is it. This is what it gave me. Let me bring it up here. It brought a name, age, is admin, and greet. What do you think it's? What do you think they are?
Their
These
data types.
uh, not data type. They are the keys of this object.
Okay.
Like I told you, an object
I,
is a collection of key and value. This key and its value, this key and its value. Now I did object.keys. So what I'm trying to say is that what JavaScript is trying to tell you is that you
excuse.
want to get the keys of this user, and all these are the keys: the name, the age, the is admin, the greet. They are the keys of this, of this user, of this user object. So it brought them out. All right, and it put them in an
Excuse.
array format. All right. Do you have any question?
Christian. Yes, yes.
All right, please go ahead.
So currently I've seen it object dot keys with the user. Can we, instead of having the key names, just like a console log the values only?
Yeah, you can console the values only. Now the yeah, you can, if I console the values, you see everything as they are. Now the reason why if I console the values, you see. Let me so let me console the user so that you see it show you. It will just oh, yeah, as you can see, it brought out everything. All right, it brought out everything. Now this greet, it is telling you that it's a function. Okay, now the reason why you need something like this, when we start, when you start using JavaScript to build your app, to write your code, you get to a point where you like, this thing will be useful to you. Like you see an object that you want to loop through, you want to get all the keys, then use this method, this object.keys method, to get the keys of that object. Is important. You will start seeing it when you start using JavaScript. Then there is other ones like there's one called values. What do you think values will do? What do you think dot values will do?
It will bring out the values of the names, of the key
Exactly.
names.
Yeah, it's just opposite of the keys. All right. So the keys brought out the keys of the object, but the for the dot values method will bring out the values of the object. Let's console log and see. So you can see here, look at it here. So it brought out the values, it left the keys and brought out the values. Now John Doe is the value for the name key, 25 is the value for age key, true is the value for is admin key, while this greet function is the value for the greet key. Now another one is there. What do you think? What do you think this one, the object.entry method, will give us? Can you guess? Now this is what it gave us. It brought out everything. So it brought out everything, the names and the key. So it's just like the entries, all the entries of the object. It brought it out, then added it adds everything into an array. This nested array inside array, just like this. You can this an array. Let me just define. This is array, an array. I can have an array inside array. All right. This is JavaScript. You can do anything. All right. This is almost like what it brought out for us here. So this is a nested array, inputting array inside array. Okay. So basically this is just the methods the method I want to cover in on for the object this thing for the object property. So I think there's one other one. Now let's say I have this object A, this object here. Okay, and I have this C4. Okay. Now this is another method of the object of the object data type. Okay, if I do this, what this does is that it takes these values in source here in this object and add it here. All right, it takes from here and add it to this one. Okay, so I console log what target object will be. You see here target object is only a it has only a property, key and value, b, key and value. All right, it doesn't have c that source has. Source has c and c, b and c. Okay, so if here now I did object.assign, it means that I say take whatever we have in source and assign it to targets here. All right, target object. So it's going to take everything from source and put it into targets. So if I log it, so I log what target will be. Oh, sorry. Oh, didn't save it. So this is what target is now. Target has acquired the extra. Target is now has acquired extra C. You understand? Here, target does not have C property. Okay, but after assigning, after running this method on it, it now has C property. Now, but B. Now you see that in target, it also has B as 2. And source has B as 3. Now the new target now has B as 3. So you notice what happened. The B in source now override the B in target. So basically that's what this object.assign does. It helps you to assign, take the properties from one object and put it in another object. So that is that for the object. So we're going to move ahead to the next topic. I hope you guys understand what I'm doing. Guys, I know that this is boring because we are not using anything, we are learning how to do anything. All right, but I just need to cover these basics with us so that when we go into Node.js proper to start building our backend, all right, so that when we go so that when we go into building our app, all this code that I'm writing here is the same thing we're going to be writing in our project. So you're going to be seeing it live and what they're doing, and it's going to be, it's going to make sense to you, because right now we are not doing anything. We are just console logging values and not doing anything with it. But trust me, when we start writing our app, our backend system, you're going to see the usefulness. So we're going to move over to scopes. So what are scopes? So there are main four types of scopes in JavaScript. I will explain. Let me just read out these things to you. Just note this, the four of them. There's what we call global scope, um, function scope, and block scope, and let's go scope. So we're going to treat this these three. This let's go scope, you can leave it, you can skip it for now. But this these three, the global function and block, is we're going to treat it. So global scope, when you define a variable, so it has to do with scope has to do with where you define a variable. All right, it has to do with where you define a variable or a function also. So where you define an entity in JavaScript. So if you define a variable in an entity in a global scope, you're going to access it anywhere within that your file, within that your module. All right. If you define if you define a variable, an entity in a global in a function scope, you only access it inside that function. All right. But if you define it in a block scope, you only access inside a block scope. So let's see what we mean by all this. Okay, so now as you can see, I have created this file called scopes.js. It can be anything. I can create it. It can be any of. It can be even. It can be this. All right. I've created it. All right. This is a module. This any file.js is called a module in JavaScript. Any JS file is called a module in JavaScript. Now, if I create a function, let's say language. If I create a variable, sorry, here, as you can see, this variable is not defined in any function. It's not defined within any object or even a class. I just defined it on a high level here. So it is on a global scope here. I can access it anywhere. I can write a function and access it. And how do I mean? Okay, I can do something like this. This is a function. Any variable I define inside this function is a function variable. Is within a function scope. But this language I defined at this level is a global scope, so I can access it inside this function. If I do this, and don't forget, if you define your function, to execute your function you must call it. Like, if as it is now, if I don't call this function, nothing will happen. Let me demonstrate so that you see. We're calling scopes now. As you can see, nothing happened. Nothing. Just the thing. Just nothing happened. There's no console log on our terminal here. All right. So, but if I call my greet function, you see it console logs hello from JavaScript. So this function was able to access this variable here, because this variable is a global function. All right, it's a global variable, sorry. So we can also do something like this. Now in Node.js we have a property, we have something called global. All right, but in JavaScript on the browser we don't have an inbuilt variable inbuilt object called global. In JavaScript browser we have windows, just like if you remember when we started, I went to the console of browser and showed you and typed out window. So window is defined is a global object in JavaScript browser, but in Node.js it's global. we use here. So if I do something like this, let's say this is a valid code. All right, I can call it, I can even call it here now, and to call it I must use the global here. All right, if I run the code, you see hello from TypeScript, which is this. So I defined this variable inside the global object, so I was able to call it anywhere from this function. So that is for the global scope. Let's discuss the function scope. All right, so let's say, let's define this. Username. Let's see. So this variable here, it's is a function scope. It's inside the function scope. Now if I run this function, it's going to work fine. Now I'll show you something. I will say hello Alice. All right, now, but watch, will I be able to call, will I be able to access this is the function, the variable inside this function scope? Will I be able to access this this variable outside the function? Anything else, anything here is outside the function. This is inside the function, but everything here up and down is outside the function. Will I be able to access it? Let's see. Let's see if I'm able to access it. If I run it, you see JavaScript throws an error. It says reference error, username is not defined. So because I'm trying to access it in the global scope, this is the global scope, I'm trying to access a functional variable, if variable inside in the function scope. Outside of it, JavaScript is throwing an error. Okay, so it is not, you can't do it. Okay, no matter what you define with it, you can access it. So that's that. Now let's go over to this function scope. This global scope. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead to look at block scope. Okay, block scope. Okay, so let's do this here. Let's define another function. I do count number. Guys, please, if you can be typing alongside with me, it will make sense. All right, so now this if here, this function, this variable number is a function scope, is inside this function, so it's a function scoped variable. Okay, but this type variable here, it's inside this if block. It's inside this if block. And how do I know it's a block? Because it has this curly brackets. All right, this curly brackets here, it has it. So it's inside this curly bracket. So let is a block scope variable, and it's available, it's inside this block if block scope. So if I access it inside the block scope, it works fine. Alright, if I access it, it works fine. Okay, but if I try to access it outside, this is outside the block, that if block. If I try to access it, it's going to throw an error. Okay, now let's demonstrate. Count. Let's call count function. So I've commented it out first so that you understand what I'm saying. So let's call this function. Is going to console log type here. So the value of type is positive, so it console logged positive for us. All right, console logged positive. So but let's try and log let's uncomment this and try to see if it will work. If I run it, you see it throws an error. It says reference error, type is not defined. You understand now, right? It says type is not defined because we are trying to access type outside this if block statement. So JavaScript does not allow you to do that. Okay, now, and the reason that happened is because I use this let keyword. If I use var keyword, all right, because I use var keyword, automatically this type variable now is now a function scope variable. Because I use var here, this will not throw an error again. It doesn't matter if I define this type inside this block scope. It doesn't matter. All right, it's now a function inside a function scope variable. So if I run this code again, this code that threw an error, if I run it again now, you see it ran, no error. It's console logged positive for this first one and positive for this second log. All right, so that's the special thing about this var type. It's when you define it inside the block scope, it doesn't respect block scope. It doesn't care. It doesn't know anything. It doesn't care about the block scope. Do not respect it. If you console log, if you use it, if you try to access the variable outside the block scope, it will work for you. JavaScript will allow you. But if you use let will respect this block scope, it will not allow. It won't allow you to use it outside the block scope. All right. The same thing with const. If you use const, the same thing, it will not allow you. It will throw an error just like let. Let and const are the same thing. The only difference is that let, you can update the value later in your code, down your code, but const, you can't update your value. All right, and you must assign const when you are declaring it. You must assign value to it. So that's basically about the scope entity. The scope topic. So this is 145, 46. Let's do Destructuring. All right, so there's some, let's do this topic before Destructuring. Spread rest. So there's what we call Destructuring, spread, and rest. They have to do with arrays and objects. Okay, so if I have something like this now, let's look at array Destructuring. Let's look at this array now. Normally, if I want to access the elements inside the array, this is how I showed you guys, this is how we access elements in the array, right? Okay, this element, I'm trying to access the first element in the array. Okay, I just saw docs now. Okay, no, I don't use spaces in naming folders. Except for any folder I want to push to GitHub and the rest. For project, I don't use names. I don't use space. I don't use space except for folders I'm using, my machine that I don't need to. I don't want to push any. But for if I'm building applications, I don't use space in my project folders. I don't use space in the names for the folders or even the files. I don't use space. It's not recommended to use space. So that's good. But guys, if you want to speak, just unmute and speak. I will hear you. If you drop message, it will take me time to see your message as as you are demonstrating. All right. So the next 12 minutes, we'll take a break. But let me just explain this now. So right, so to access elements in the array, you can use the index numbers. The first element is index 0. The second one is index 1, while the last one is index 2. Because in array, when we're counting the index, that index is the position where they are. So we start at index 0, starting from the left at the beginning of the array here. This is index 0, this is index 1, and this is index 2. So if we console log this, sorry. If I console log, you see 10, 20, and 30. Alright. So this is normal way of accessing elements of the array. But there is another way, which is the structuring. I can say this is the old way. This is the old way. Then this is the structuring. So this is the structuring. I can do something like this. Now, can you guess what x, y, z will give us? Hello guys. Hello guys. Can you guys guess what's x?
It will give
So
it will give 0, 1, and 2.
They are moving what is in the number array into the XYZ.
the values, right?
Yeah, the values.
Yes,
They are assigning them the XYZ.
10, 20, and 30.
Exactly, you're correct. It's not going to give us
X.
0, 1, 2. It's not 0, 1, 2 that is going to give us. It's going to give us the values itself. 0, 1, 2 is the index positions. Alright. So it's not going to give us 0, 1, 2. It's going to give us 10, 20, 30, which is the values, the main values of the arrays, of the array elements. Okay, so let's console log and see. So bring this up. As you can see, it gave us 10, 20, and 30. All right, so this is called destructuring. I destructured the element instead of accessing it the old way, which is this. Instead of doing this, we are now doing this way. Okay, so that's how we destructure in array. Okay, sorry guys, hold on a minute. Let me move this to use my mouse. Okay, so that's basically that's for array destructuring. Then we can also destructure in objects. Then you can actually do a skip. You can actually skip y here. You can actually skip now. There's no y again here because I've skipped it. Now what I mean is that I just want to access the first element and the last element. Then I don't want to access the middle one. You understand? If I want to access only the last element, I can remove x and access only the last element. All right, this is just destructuring. If I want to access only the first element, which is x, for example, you can name this anything. You can name it anything. It doesn't mean that you use x or y. You can name it anything. So if I want to access only the first element, I can just put it, use it only it's here. Put it there. You see what we'll get. Let me console log it so that you confirm. As you can see, I got 10. So I just want the first element of nums array. All right. So that's for the destructuring of array. Okay,
Sir, please,
let's.
what does that LSLS mean?
No, I just gave it a value, a name.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I just type anything there. I'm basically what I'm saying is that you can name it anything. It doesn't mean that you to be x or y that I used.
So what if is the second value you want to access? What name will you give
Okay,
it?
if you can use any name. The thing is that you must indicate the position by using comma. You do something like this, comma, and put anything here, any name. So what's
So
this?
using no comma automatically brings just the first value.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Okay.
yes. This comma means that I want to skip this first one, this first
Skip.
value.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So here now, the first value will be here, but I don't care about it. All right, that's what JavaScript will understand what you're trying to say. So then the second name you give the second variable you define here, JavaScript will understand that, okay, you want to get the second variable. All right, you can if you add
Okay, sir.
another comma here, sorry, if you add another comma, it means that this is the third variable, but you don't care about it. But
Yes.
if I save it,
Yes.
pretty I understand my JavaScript formatter understand that I want to get the second value. It just remove that third comma. It doesn't care. JavaScript does not care. So it understand that I want to skip the first variable and take the second variable. All right.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So I think then let's do for object structuring. Object destructuring. So how do we destructure objects? If we define our objects again, now if I want to access the name the old way, this is the old way of doing it, right? If I console log, I will get Alice as name here. Now the structuring method is this. Now this is the structuring of objects. Hope you guys understand. So if I console log, let me copy it from here. Or I can even do for the age too. It brings out Alice and age. So this is the structuring for objects. It's just very straightforward. Then now if you noticed, I already have name defined here. I already have name variable defined here. So if I want to use it here, it won't, JavaScript won't allow you, because it's telling me that I already have name variable here. I cannot redeclare it here. All right. So you may encounter something like this in your code when you're building your app. To solve this, you can do something like this. Now, what does this mean? What I'm saying is that, what this code is saying is that, since this name is already defined, rename this name, whatever we're getting, rename it to username. So it's just like renaming the variable. So if I console log, I'll still get Alice. Username will still be Alice. All right, username is still Alice. Username is still Alice and 24 here as age. So that is the structuring and renaming of the variable. Okay, so let's talk about spread operator. Okay, so we'll have spread for in array. Let's discuss it. Let's say, now another thing I want to indicate, guys, you see I use const here, I used const here. All right, you can use any of the keywords for variables. You can use let. All right, it's just the same principle that applies. If you use const, it means that is a constant. You can't change the value. Like here now, you can't do, since I'm using const for username, I can't do if I try to run this code now, let me run it. It throws an error because I'm trying to, yeah, you see it's pointing to this, which is this line 28. It's telling me that I can't reassign to const because const is a constant variable. Well, if I change it to let or var, it will run. No, it won't throw any error. You see, it runs without error. It's just console log crease. So you can use any keyword here, const or let. It doesn't matter as far as you want it to be anyone. All right, so let's do the structuring. If I have, let's say, array 1 2 3, and I have this is what spread does, the spread operator. If I do 1 2 3 ARR1, 1 2 3 ARR2. Now this dots here, these 3 dots here, is the spread operator. All right, let me indicate it here. 1 2 3. this 3 dots is the spread operator, and this 3 dots here also is the spread operator. Now it works, it's a spread operator because I attach it to arrays here. So what am I trying to do? This array 3 here, we have all the elements of array 1 and all the elements of array 2. So just like I'm taking it and spreading it into this array to create array 3. Alright, I want to create array 3 from array 1 and array 2. So I take array 1, spread all the elements inside the array 3, take array 2, spread all its elements inside array 3. So if I console log array 3, you will see that it has everything of array 1 and 2, all the elements of array 1 and 2. Oh, sorry. So you see array 3, this is array 3. Now it has elements 1, 2 to 6. So this is array 3. It has 1, 2 to 6. Alright. So this is spread operator. It's very useful. We're going to use it a lot in our project. Now spread in objects. Spread in objects. Let's say we have, let's take our objects here and wow, it's 2 already. Wow. Guys, after this topic, I don't know, we should take a breather, right? Guys, should we rest a little?
Let's continue.
Sir, you say?
So let's just go on. Let's just continue for now.
Okay. Okay, so now you see spread here, right? I'm trying to spread this lady object into this updated object. Alright, now I spread it and I added extra property to the object, extra key value properties to the object. So if I console log updated, it's going to have everything in this lady object in addition to this one that I added extra to it. Okay, so if I console log, you see it. So the lady object, the updated object has everything in the lady object, which is the name, which is Alice, age 24, gender female, in addition to the city London I added. Okay, so this is what spread does for you. So it's just like it's helping you in JavaScript. They just helped us to, so that instead of writing it one after the other, all right, instead of writing it, coming to write it, like instead of doing something like this, name lady dot name, age lady dot age, then gender lady dot gender. Instead of doing this too much work, they say okay, no problem, don't do it, just come here, spread everything inside the object, and this is spread operator. Right, so we encounter this when we are writing our code, so that's why I need us to see it. Okay, so that is that for the spread. Then let's look at rest operator. I think this is the final one. Rest also in array. Rest is also dots. You see the difference. Hold on, sorry. Destructuring objects. Okay, now let's look at this example. Let's take our initial example here. Let's copy it down. Okay. Let me just call it my numbers. Okay, I can do something like this. Now, if you look at this now, this is a rest operator. Now, if you see, if you compare, if you look at this, this spread here. If you look at this spread and rest, they are the same. They are the same symbols. Dot, triple dots, not two dots, triple dot must be triple. 3. It must not. If it's 4, JavaScript will throw error. So if you look at these two now, how can you differentiate? Like, how can you say this is? How can you differentiate that this is spread and this is rest? Now, if this is where I'm using it, I'm using spread. Spread is at the right hand side of this equation. It's at the right hand side, which is this. So that's how you know spread. You're spreading elements into another element because you're trying to initialize values from the right hand side. Okay, but rest is at the left hand side of the equation, of the assignment equation. So it's at this side, so it is rest. All right, so what does it do? Just like spread takes the elements, spread takes the elements in the array and spread it, scatter it, put it out 1 take them and spread it, scatter it, remove it from the array, pieces it into the elements you want to use it. So just bring them one after the other. This rest operator on the other hand do opposite the same thing. All right, now what does it do here? I am trying to access the first element here, then these other ones will be as they are from this my nums array. So if I console log my nums here, you will see if I console log order, let me console log the two, first num and other nums. So if I run this, as you can see, first num is 10, while other nums is array of 2 and 20 and 30. All right, so this is what it does. It takes the other elements of the array and puts them together as array. I don't know if you guys are following. All right, it kind of it takes this 20. I only access the first element, so it took this 20 and 30 and put them into extra another array, and you can use it to do anything you want to do in your program. Now if I do something like this, what do you think other nums will be? So I'm trying to say I want to take the first number, which is 10, take the second number, which is 20, then any other number, I don't care, just put them together in nums here. So what do you think nums will be? Other nums will be. Let's console log again and see other nums. Let me console log the second num. See, first num is 10, second num is 20. Now third num is on its own. Other nums is on its own, that is 30 inside array. So it must put it inside array. The first num is not an array, it's just the normal numbers I want it. The second num is normal numbers I want it, but the third numbers you just copy everything and put there. Now if we say, okay, we have 20 here, we have this here, what will other nums be? To demonstrate that, you see, other nums will still carry the other numbers that are remaining, to just add them together. So I don't know if you guys are following. So that is the end for this destructuring. All right, so the next topic will be control flow. By 2:30 we'll go on small rest, so that we can just check it off. We have like classes. Wow, I will be looking at Python today. No, I say Python, sorry, TypeScript. Okay, so let's talk about control flow. Control flow. So guys, let's look at control flow. We talked about scopes. Okay, control flow. All right, so control flow determines the order in which JavaScript executes statements in a program. All right, by default, JavaScript runs program from top to bottom, left to right, but control structures like if, for, while, switch, etc. can alter the order. So let's just look at what we meant by that. Okay, so if you have your code here, if we write something like this, although other ways JavaScript can, the order of execution can happen. If we do this, if you do this now, JavaScript runs code from top to bottom. So it will first console log. Hello world, then go to the next statement and execute the addition there. But we can do some, try to control it. Try to say, okay, do this instead of this and do this instead of this. And how can we do that? We can say, okay, let's define a variable here equal to 20 and say if age is, for example, I'm using if console log So normally our code is supposed to run from top to bottom, but because of this if statement, this is how we write if here. If is for logic, like it's saying if this is this, do this, else do this other thing. All right, so if you start if with if, open brackets, then put the condition. This is where you put your condition. The condition now will now determine which of these statements we run, this one or this or this. So if I run this program, depending on this condition, that is, what is the condition? If the value of this variable age is greater than or equal to the value 18, as you can see, obviously I added 20 there, so obviously it's greater than 18, so this one is going to run. But if I reduce it to like 10, to be this other statement that's going to run. Okay, so that's how we control the flow of execution. So it says you are a teenager here. All right, so you are a teenager. Let me use CMD terminal. So you are a teenager. So that is, but if I increase it back to 20, it's going to execute. You are an adult. So that's using if to control the flow. We can also use switch to select what we execute. Okay, so let's see if we can just demonstrate that. Let's use. So we also have things like should I say? Okay, let's look at something like this. So we can do some things like this. This is a for loop, right? This is a for loop. What this for loop does is that it loops through this element here, loops through this array element, the element in the array. So I'm defining a variable inside a for loop. That's this fruit variable. I can call it f. Okay, I'm defining the variable of fruit. What I'm saying is that I want to loop every element inside this array of fruits, but each of the elements I want to define a variable that will hold them, and I call the variables f. Then I'll console log them here. So if I execute the flow, see, I got orange, apple, banana. So it kind of controls the flow also on its own. So we'll be doing much of there's other loops that we can use to control flow and the rest. So we have for loop. For loop is defined this way. We can do something like this. This is a very popular loop. So in this for loop, now why this thing is why I am putting this topic inside control flow is that it actually controls the flow. Like for example, if I put a statement here, if I put any expression here, and put another thing here, here. Now if this executes, right, it gets into this place. Now if this one executes, normally it's supposed to come down and execute this one, this other expression here, but because this is a for loop, because it's a for loop, it doesn't go straight directly into executing this other one. It has to loop through till when the for loop is satisfied, then it can now come down and execute the last one. So that's why that's control flow. It controls the flow. Okay, so if I run the code, yeah, as you can see, it ran hello Chris, then run the loop, then did the final mass here. Now, how does this for loop execute? If you look at this for loop here, this is initialization of my counter in the for loop. This is condition that the for loop looks at before it starts and executes. All right. Now, and this is an increment, like we've discussed this. This is an increment operator, like we discussed yesterday. It increases the element. So the for loops here, it initializes I to 0, then it checks is I less than 4. Yes, I is less than 4 because I is 0. It executes the code. It executes the code. That's where we got 0. Then increments. After executing, it will now increment the I to 1, from 0 to 1, because it started with 0. It increments from 0 to 1. Then comes back and check is I, which is 1 now, less than 4. Yes, it is less than 4. It comes and executes. That's console log. That's how we got 1 here. Then after console logging, it comes back to check again. It increases, from 1 to 2. After it increases, it check is I, which is now 2, less than 4. Yes, it is less than 4. It comes and executes again. That's how we got 2. Then it increments from 2 to 3. Then it checks again, is it less than 4? Yes, it is less than 4. It console log, it executes the whatever is inside the for bracket. Yes. Then after that, it moves ahead. This is how it's going to do till I gets to 4. When I gets to 4, it is no longer less than 4. Then it will terminate and comes and executes this one here. So this is how for loop is executed. This for loop is very important, guys. You need to pay attention to it. It's not only available in JavaScript. This for loop is very available in almost all programming languages. This for loop is very important to understand it. That's why I just took my time to explain it the little I can. But if you have any question on it, you can ask. It's very important to understand it. There's also while loop. While loop is very important too. So that's about that for control flow. Okay, so we're going to be using these logics in our application, our projects. We're looking at now classes. Guys, by 2:30 we'll go on a break. So let's say in the next 5 minutes we'll go on break. Then we'll come back after like 15 minutes, so that we can just continue again. I'm just considering you guys so that we'll not be overwhelmed. Hello, Edwin. Alright, okay, so let's look at classes. Alright, so a class in JavaScript is a template or blueprint for creating objects that share the same structure as properties and behavior methods. Okay, class was introduced in ES6. ES6 is a version of JavaScript that was introduced in 2015. It's actually the version that encompasses most of the modern features that we have in JavaScript. So classes was one of the items that was introduced. So classes provide a cleaner and more readable syntax for working with prototypes. So in classes, you will see things like constructor. Alright, constructor is a special method that you automatically call. It's automatically called when you initialize an object or an instance of that class that you created. We're going to see a demo on it. So we will be using something like this keyword. This keyword means it refers to the instance of the class that is created. Methods defined inside the class are added to the prototypes. So an instance of class is called an object. Okay, so it's implementation. So all these things. Then this field here is properties of the class can either be private, public, static, and non-static. Okay, we're going to demonstrate these things here. So pay attention to how we're going to define. So pay attention to constructor. We're going to see constructor. We're going to see this keyword. And we're going to be doing things on public, private, and static and non-static methods and variables. All right. So pay attention to these things I mentioned. We're going to be looking at. All right. At them. Okay, so to define class, use the class keyword. This is how you define a class in JavaScript. You use the class keyword, you give it the name, and you put it inside you open a bracket, open and close bracket. Then everything you're going to do, it will be inside this curly bracket, right? So like I said, this is the first method we're going to write. It's called a constructor. You can't write any function here inside a class, and this is how you create a method inside the class. Let's say I want to create greet method, for example. Methods are functions inside an object. So when you have a function inside an object, you don't call it function, you call it method. Although it's the same thing, but you call it method. Now this is how we're defining it. If you notice, I didn't use function. All right, it will complain. JavaScript will not allow you to do this. So you remove the keyword function and just write your method, define it with open bracket and curly brackets, parentheses and curly brackets. So I can just do this. Okay, before I do that, let's give our person class some fields. Now so what does this mean that I'm doing here? Like, now this is equivalent to something like this. All right, so it just basically, I'm trying to this is a shorthand for, instead of defining the variables here, it's kind of defining and initializing in the constructor at the same time. All right, so here, if I want to use any of these fields here, the name and the age, using the templates let's row here, I can do terminal 31. Okay. Okay, so now if I can initialize Now to initialize, I'm using keyword new keyword, and I'm calling my class. All right, and I'm giving it opening this I'm using this parenthesis here. So now if I because of the construction of the class takes two arguments, name and age, I must provide it here when I'm defining my class. So I want to give it name of Alice, then age. All right, if I do this person, if I console this person object, let's see what it will bring, it will give us. As you can see, it gives us the name of the person class, then the name, the properties defined. All right, so it is this here. Okay, wait, hold on, let me console log greet so that you can have a proper understanding what I mean. It's undefined. Okay, sorry. So it says, hi, I am Alice and I am 35. So it means that this is making reference to the instance here I initialized, I mean. So the name here, it's actually the variable, the name I passed, and the age is actually the age I passed. If I create another instance, and give it another age, yeah, as you can see, the first one says, hi, I'm Alice and 35. The other one says, hi, I'm Mark and 50. So the this keyword here, this keyword here makes reference to the instance, to the particular instance, not the class, itself. It makes reference to the particular instance that you're initializing with it. So I understand that maybe I'm overwhelmed with this. I don't know. This is 2:34. Guys, can we take a break? Then we can come back, right?
Agreed.
Yes.
Seconded.
Okay, so this is 3:30. Yeah, this is 3:35. Let's come back by 3:50. 3:50, right? The same link. Okay. Alright, guys, the same link, 3:50.
All right.
Convey back. So let's take a breather.
Thank you, sir.
Alright, guys, you can see my screen, right? Yeah, thumbs up if you can see my screen. Okay, so now we'll be moving into what is called oh, hold on, let's first discuss, okay, let's discuss the fields, different properties of the fields that we have in class. Like I said, from presentation we have close this. So sorry guys, yeah, we have what we call the private, public, static and non-static variables, methods, fields in in a class. And how do we what do we mean by that? Okay, let me define a class here. Call it
Sorry, sir. We can no longer see your screen, sir.
oh really? Oh, sorry. Okay, can you see it now? So I want to talk about private, public, static, and non-static fields and methods of a class. All right, so let's do something like this: 1.415.415.9. Okay. Um. Sorry, guys. I will still explain what I'm doing here. I just need to type it out first. Okay. Um. Let's define another function. Okay. So, guys, in a JavaScript class, all right, in a JavaScript class, the fields that you define, that is the fields and methods that you define, that is the variables and the methods, the function like the properties and the methods that you define can either be public, private or public. All right, then they can either be static or non-static. Okay, what do I mean by all this? Okay, so a static, when a field is static in a class, it means that you don't need to initialize the class for you to be able to call the static field or the static method. You don't need to initialize it. And you don't need to create an instance of it. Sorry, you don't need to create an instance of it. This example we gave here of this class here, this is an example of creating an instance of the class an instance of class person. All right, this is creating an instance. So before I am able to call this greet method, I need to create an instance of the class person. All right, now what do I mean by that? It means that I can't do something like this. Is I am calling the class, the class person class, this class here, I'm calling it here. I can do something like dot greet. I can do something like this dot greet. Alright, it's going to be a problem. Let's run it and see. Okay, you see it's creates a problem. It says person dot greet is not a function. Why isn't it a function? But it's supposed to be a method that is created for the class. So it means that it's not a static method. I need to create an instance of the class for me to be able to call it, just like I did here. Create an instance of it, then call the method on the instance that I created. Okay, so this is going to cause an error, but there's a way I can make this not to throw an error. This thing I did, there's a way I can make it not to throw an error, not to be an error. This is how we're going to do it. Let's demonstrate it in this other place. Okay, see, you see this static here. If I add static to my method or to my field, it means I can call that field or the method without creating an instance. So if I go back to this place here and I add static here, okay, let me console log this. Now if let's see if it will work. You see, this greet did not, it didn't throw error again now. Alright, I didn't call anything here on this class master. So this person dot greet, it didn't throw any error now. But if I remove this static that I added to it, if I remove it and run the code again, it is going to throw back the error it threw. Person dot greet is not a function. Hope you guys understand. But if I add static, it's not going to throw an error. So it means that static methods or static variables allows you to call them if call them on the class if you don't, like, without initializing any instance of the class. Okay, so that is what static does. Now that's what is static. So any property here that does not carry static with it, does not carry static in its front, it means automatically it is non-static. So non-static means that for you to be able to call that field or that method, you must create an instance of an object instance of the class. So that is the two thing about static and non-static. Okay, now what about private and public? A private field is a field that can be only callable, like you can only use it inside the class that you're defining. As you're defining your class and you make a field, you make any field private, it means that you can only call it as you are defining that class. Alright, if you initialize an instance of that class later in your code, you can't call that private class, that private field or the method. Now this is it. How do we define a private field in the JavaScript class? We use this hash symbol here. We use hash. Hash means that it is JavaScript will know that it is a private entity. It's a convention, right? So if it's a field, you add hash to it, then you give it the name. Alright, anyone that does not have it is not private, is public. Anyone that does not have hash is public. Alright, so here, let's look at this our field now. This pi here, pi, has static here, so it's a static public. It's a static public field. It's a static and public field. So what it means is that I can call it outside without initializing the instance of the class. Alright, if I do this, if I do maths, if I console log it, Let's see what it's going to give us. You see, no error, nothing. It just give us the value, which is 3.14159. All right. So it is static and public. I can call it outside. Now, this second one is static, but it is private because it is static because we defined we added the static keyword to it, and it is private because we use hashtag. So because even as it is now, I can't call it. I should be able to call it here, like I call this pi because it is static, but I can't call it because it is private. So if I try to access it, if you see, it is not even showing. It's not coming up. So, but if I copy it here, if I copy and try and access it, see, it's even telling me that it's not accessible outside the class because it's a private identifier, so I can't call it. All right. So, but why is it there? Why is it there? What was the usefulness? This is where I used it. You can use it inside. You see, I'm using it inside this method. Okay, you can only use it inside the class when you're defining. So it's usually for field that you don't want people to have access to it when they are using your code or when they are calling your functions and the rest. So that's why we define it. Then this is another this is a method, and now this method is static. So static method means that I can call it without defining creating an instance of the class. All right, so I just give it a value, and if I run it, it's going to work. So see, it's give us a value. All right, it did the calculation and give us a value. That's static. I don't need to create an instance. All right, so now what about this next one? This is static, but it is private. I can't call private. It is static. If I try to access it, I can't. It's already telling me that it's not doable. But if I remove it, if I remove this hash and see, let's see what it's going to work. It throws an error because it's not a function. You can't see because it's private. I need to add this thing there. But this last method, this one is non-static. This one is non-static, but it is public. I can call it. It's public, but it is non-static. Non-static is that, okay, let's see. Since it is public, let's see if we can call it here. I'll give it a value. Let's see if we can call it. You see, we got an error. Why? Because it is non-static. It means that we need to initialize our class before calling this method. So how do we mean? Okay, I need to initialize it. Let's initialize it by doing new math util and this. I've initialized this class on this instance. All right, so we don't need to pass anything to. There's no constructor defined here. Constructor is not defined, so we don't need to pass anything to constructor. So it's already defined here. So now I can call utils dot compute secret, this method now that was giving me problem. I don't want to get called. I'll call it here, give it any value I want. So oh, sorry. So it gave us 94. So that is the, you see it callable now because I've initialized the class and I called it on instance. So that is all about these properties, the specifications here about classes. All right, we also meet class in TypeScript. All these things we're discussing here, we're going to meet them in TypeScript when we're going to introduce TypeScript to us. So let's move ahead to the next topic. Now we want to talk about primitive wrapper objects. What's okay? Let's have a look. Let's see if I have it in my slides here. Oh no. Let's discuss. I think we have OOP. Yeah, let's discuss OOP because if you discuss class, you must discuss OOP. Yeah, OOP stands for Object-Oriented Programming. Although JavaScript is not strict on OOP, is not too serious on OOP. Languages that you did that are strong on OOP are Java, C++, many languages, Java, C++, C Sharp. Yeah, so they are good with OOP. Java is the OOP master. So, but JavaScript here is not too keen on OOP, but let's discuss what it means. And because in TypeScript we're going to use, because our application we're going to use class definitions to build our app. So that's why I'm introducing this class and OOP. So OOP concepts are like mainly four. We have the inheritance, encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism. And these are just language. These are just terminologies. So what does it mean? Let's discuss. Inheritance allows one class to reuse and extend another class's properties and methods. Inheritance is just like a child class inheriting all the properties of its parent class. Alright, so we're going to see that. So encapsulation means restricting direct access to some of the object internal data, like like we saw when we used the private the hashtag for private fields and methods. It means that any class that want to inherit that from our class, that our math class, will not have access to any of these private fields and methods that we defined in that class. So that's encapsulation. Then abstraction means hiding complex and exposing only what's necessary. Now we're going to define that. We're going to discuss that when we're using, discussing with our example. It's just like you create an API method that's just expose what's necessary, hide all the other informations on in the class. Polymorphism means any forms like overriding, like methods overriding a child. When a child class inherits from its parent class, there are some methods that it just needs to override, like the parents defined it, but it needs to override it to its own form. Right. So let's just have a look at the OOP concept, and I think we'll have guys. If you want to call my attention to something, you can just open and unmute and discuss. Alright, so alright, let's start with inheritance. So if you have something like class animal, let's put our constructor here. Okay, I need to plug this. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we have a class and of class animal. I want to create a method. It has already a field of name, a method of speak. Let's console log in our speak method here. Let's do this. Again, we are accessing. Alright, so this is my class of animal. Let's inherit. Now I want to create a class of dog. Dog is an animal and it has this kind of property. It speaks. All right, it's an animal, so I can extend this. All right, so automatically what it means is that my dog class has inherited this name field and has inherited this method speak, because if I console log dog dog class. Okay, let me do that without the inheritance first so that you see the difference. If I run this, you see it's just class of dog. All right, but if I extend animal here and console log again, you see class extends animal. So basically I can do something like this: speak. Sorry, I need to initialize it, but right. So it's going to say you see it throws no error. Then we can now do something like this.
Check the undefined.
Yeah,
Undefined
I know.
makes a sound.
You need to here, because we have a constructor here. All right, we need to do this. We need to take the name here. Now if we run it, this name is undefined. Speak. Sorry guys, let me have this crash.
Inside the constructor, I think we are missing the equal to name. For animal.
Yes, yeah, I missed it. Sorry. That's an oversight. Thank you for that observation. So Bonnie makes it sound. So it's just like we inherited this. You see, in the class, in the dog class, I didn't define anything speak here. I didn't define the method speak. It was only defined in the class in the animal class, and also the name field was also not defined in the dog class. So everything was defined here, but the dog inherited it from the parent. The animal here is the parent class, the dog is the child class. So it inherited all the methods from it and all the fields and methods from it, and you can use it. So that's inheritance in a nutshell. I don't think we actually need this. Let's see. We don't need that class definition, unless the only time we will need the class definition is when we like we want to change the class information. The constructor. Sorry, we don't need the constructor. We want to change the constructor information. Sorry, is anybody raising their hands? You can come attention to anything. Sorry, you can just speak. Just speak.
Actually, mine was just a question.
All right.
Regarding the extended class with the
Yeah.
constructor and the super you are writing. Is it actually my question was it a must to have them?
Okay. You want me to explain this super that I used?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Super is when is a keyword. Is a keyword just like constructor is a keyword. All right. Now super is when you know this dog is inheriting or extending this animal class, right? Now, if I want to call any method or anything on the animal class, I want to call it in my code from the dog class, I need to use super. Okay, super is just like I'm calling the constructor of this animal class here. All right. So now this animal, this dog class, this dog it inherits everything. It inherits the constructor, the speak method, the name fields from the dog inherits all these things from the animal class, right? Now, but this constructor that I'm defining here is different from the constructor of the animal. You understand? If I leave it out, if I don't define anything on the constructor about the constructor, automatically the constructor of this dog will be the same constructor of the animal because it extends it. All right, but I want to I want to add extra something to the dog class. That's why I want to do this construct. I created a new constructor for it. Now I am giving it two parameter, two argument, two parameters per se, but the animal constructor only takes one. All right, so to be able to like make it work, I will have to call use since I've created overriding or I override the animal constructor. I need to with my own constructor. I need to call the constructor of the animal class. So I will give it this name. So it means that I have called this constructor here with this name here. So it works. I've given it the name. Then I can do something like this. Create another field for myself for the dog class. You understand? All right. So this super here is just like calling, making reference to the parents class. Anytime you see super in your methods in your class, or when you see JavaScript code, class code, and you see super, it means that they are making reference to this the extended class. If this dog class does not extend the animal, there's no need to call this super here. It will just be it's just on its own class. I will need to define everything, the method and the rest. But because it extends, then I want to call the constructor. So super is just like calling the constructor of the parents class. So is that understood? Do you understand?
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, because if you don't call super, it's going to throw an error. Because the two, or it may not throw an error, it may just take this. Let's try it first. Let's see. Let's experiment. Yeah, it threw an error because the derived constructor, yeah, it says must call the constructor in the derived class before accessing this. All right, so that's because I'm overriding the constructor of the parent class with this constructor. So that is that for inheritance. Then let's talk about encapsulation. Right, encapsulation restricting direct access. So it's basically the same thing. If let's say, okay, in our class here, so should I, okay, if I define something like this, a private property, how will I call it now? No, let me not call it call it? So if I do something like this, my laptop is lagging now. Now this is a method. If let's call now this, when the dog inherits this inherit from the animal, this spot is private, so it doesn't get inherited alongside. It means that this dog does not have sports sports field. All right, so but it inherits this shoe. All right, so if we call, what are we going to get when we call show? And we know that show is console logging the sports. Now it's going to run. Sorry. Oh god. Why is, need to calm down. So okay. Now it's run. It gave us black. All right. But see one thing. I can't access the black from Bunny here, but I can access name. Let's console log. Sorry guys, let's console log. Or let me use another what will I call it? What should I? Okay, see, we have two fields here. We have two fields. This is private, this is not private. We are talking about encapsulation. We are saying that in encapsulation, when a class inherits from another class, from its parent class, it does not inherit the private any field that is defined as private. Okay, it doesn't inherit everything. So to demonstrate it now, I defined two fields, sports and nickname. Sports is private, nickname is not, is public. Nickname is public. Now, since this dog class inherits from animal class, I create an instance of the dog class. Now try to access name from nickname. Sorry, let me use nickname. If we try to access nickname, if we call nickname, it's going to give us Jack. All right, I didn't define it in the dog class. I only inherited it from the dog, only inherited it from the animal class. All right, so but if I try to access the sports, if I try to inherit sports, automatically my editor is telling me no, you can't do that. All right, it's already giving me red line. So it means that it didn't inherit it. The dog did not inherit it. So it's private. So that's encapsulation. It restricts access just like as we defined here. Just like as we defined here, a can solution restrict direct access to some of the object's internal data. Okay, so let's discuss abstraction. Guys, don't worry, I will these codes that I'm using here, some of these examples, I will share them. I'm still trying to compile the resources properly so that we'll have direct access. So abstraction means hiding complex and exposing only what's necessary. Hiding complexity. There's a class here I need to define to explain this. I have coffee. Guys, if you need anything, you want to call my attention, you can let me know. Okay, this is a private field. All right, let's do this. Fill water. I want to define how to make coffee, for example.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, this hashtag water level.
It's
What
private.
does it mean?
It's
I saw
private.
it do it in the other example. Okay, it's private. Okay.
Yes, it's a private entity. It means that you can't use it when you initially instantiate the class. You can't use it outside the class. You can't call it. You can't be inherited.
Okay.
Is that clear?
You can post it on the group.
You see?
I need that your slide.
Yeah, of course.
You can post.
Yeah, I'll share it.
Okay.
I'll share it. Okay. I need to introduce TypeScript to us today. Probably by next week we'll do some TypeScript. Then we'll now start Node.js proper. Like start discussing the things that make Node.js what it is. Alright, what we are doing now is still JavaScript. Alright, JavaScript we're working on. Most of the codes we're writing here, we can write it on the browser and to execute. Yeah, almost everything. So there's nothing peculiar about Node.js here. We have not gone, although it's almost everything that's similar. So in Node.js we'll discuss some of the modules that makes Node.js what it is. So I need to make coffee. So all right, to define this function now. This abstraction that we're talking about. Abstraction is just like, okay, let me use real life scenario. If you want to, if you have a car and you start your car and you put it in a gear and you drive, those are simple actions. All right. The behind the scene, a lot of work is your engine is doing a lot of work to make sure that your car moves from ignition to steering and everything. So those components that the engineers, the makers of the car, covered, they just simply make it easy for you to drive the car. Just put your key, start your ignition, and put key and move. All right, they made it easy in that step. But behind the scene, a lot of work is going on, so they hide it. That is abstraction. They abstracted everything away for the user so that you can just simply put your key and start driving. You understand? So that is what abstraction is. So this class I'm defining now is just to demonstrate to give a little insights on something like that. And if you're wondering why these things, like what are the usefulness, they are useful when you start writing a lot of code. Okay, because even as a software engineer, when you start growing in your career, you start handling complex projects. You understand and appreciate this concept that we are discussing here. because most of these concepts are even used even in the architectures that we work with. Even this Node.js, the builder, the creator of this Node.js, the person that took JavaScript from browser and created Node.js, he did. I believe you have used a OOP, then did some abstractions, some encapsulations in his code for us to be able to start using it. So yeah, I think I'm done with my class. Let's create something like this now. Let's say a new machine.view machine dot make coffee. Now guys, please pay attention. Let me explain this quickly. Now this is a class. This is a class coffee machine. Now if you look at this function make coffee, this make coffee is simply, if you want to use it, you just call it. All right, it will, if you just call it, and it will do do whatever you call it to do. All right, now if you look at the implementation, this is the implementation. If you see, it has to do a lot of check. It checks this, calls this function, then if it checks this, if this is true, it calls this function and console log. If it's false, it's console log and do all these kind of things. It's an abstraction, like it has abstracted all these things away. So we are only seeing, if you want to make coffee, let's say this is an actual machine. If we want to make coffee, we only just call this function and coffee will be made for us simply. Simple like that. All right. So it doesn't allow, it doesn't show us all the implementations that are, like, we don't need to see or know all the implementations that are inside the make coffee function. You guys understand, right? So that is just abstraction. It abstracts everything. It uses the private, this is the private water level. It uses private, the private field. It uses private method. This is a boil water private method. It uses it to to do other things. So everything is abstracted away. So this is abstraction, the concept. Then the other one, the last one, is polymorphism. So let me polymorphism is just like overriding methods. If I should still go back to, let me put this in here. I'll go back to this our function here, because we still have to use the same class, polymorphism. So if we are, polymorphism is overriding class overriding the method, or the child class overriding any of the parent methods or fields. Okay, so let's say this is our animal class. Our dog class extends is that inherits from it. If we create another class, let's create cat class. Cat is also an animal also, so let's extend the animal class with it. Now you see our speak method. Our speak method just said makes a sound. Now in our class, our speak method is in the class, is in the animal class, but our dog class did not do anything with the speak method. It didn't. It's using it as it is from the parents, the way it inherited it from the class, from the animal class. That's how it's using it, right? But you can choose to do something about it, because the way a dog barks while a cat has a meow sound. So if you want to implement something like that, like in real life, you can say, okay, let's override this our speak method for the dog. Let's overwrite it. Because the dog barks, we want our dog instance to bark. So if we do something like this, all right, is a dog, it barks. Then if we can also do something. Can also do something for, I think I want to remove this. So do something for our cards class. Okay, so now if I what will I call it? So if we call, sorry guys, let me comment this. So coming back here, if we call this now because we override this speak method in each of the classes, in each of the child class. All right, the inheriting class is called child class, while the inherited class is called the parent class. So since we override them, the methods in the classes, you're going to see the difference now. It's going to be called like these are the methods that are going to be called on the class, not the one from the parents. Okay, so if we console log, so if you see, it says Bonnie backs here. This says Bonnie backs. So why this says fluffy meal? So this is basically a polymorphism. It means that different forms. All right, we can choose to our class that we're creating and it's inheriting from a parent class can choose to override any method and it will exist in different form. You can create different forms of the class parents. That's polymorphism. Polymorphism means different forms, different forms. So our animal class has different methods, different forms of speak methods on dog and class. So that's polymorphism. Our animal class has different forms of speak methods on dog class and cat class. So that's polymorphism there. So this is, I know it's not too, we are not using it, we are just demonstrating it. So I think it may not be too real to us, but let's just have that in mind that these OOPs are good class concepts. JavaScript may not be too strong on OOP, but classes like Java, if you go for interviews like senior backend engineering interviews for classes for programming languages that are strong on classes, they'll ask you these concepts. You should explain them. So I think that's the wrap on classes. We're almost done with basics of JavaScript. I want to just let's briefly look at what we have next. Primitive wrapper class. Primitive wrapper class is just something. It's very short. Let's just have a look. I think we need to see it. What's the time now? Okay, we are almost done, but I think I'll take some extra minute to introduce TypeScript to us after this, after we're done, so that by next week we'll just get into it. So, all right. Primitive wrapper object. Now, primitive wrapper object. Now, if you recall from the beginning, I told you guys that JavaScript has 7 primitive data types and 1 non-primitive, right? The non-primitive, the 7 non-primitives are string, number, null and undefined. We have big int. We have what was the other one? Big int. We have hold on, let me string number, big int, undefined null. We have symbol, yeah. we have boolean, yeah, symbol and boolean. So now, if you look at the example we did on string, you know, if you look at, let me see if we can go back. Yes. Where we are looking at arrays and okay, I don't think it's here. Okay, I think it's the objects and that's operator. Okay, so is it here where we discuss about some like the the methods that were common between. We discussed the methods that were common between string and array. Wow, didn't we? Okay, all right. So let's just let me introduce that immediately from. I think we need to primitive wrapper object. Okay, so the example is this. Okay, see, if I do this, okay, now I can do something like this. I think we did something like this, right? We did it yesterday. Now, if I run this code, it's going to run. Okay, node primitive. It gave me 1, right? Now, what does this do? Index of, I said, I'm calling this method. I said, I want to get the index where this substring exists on this string. Now, if you look at ELLO, it is after this H. It's after this H. All right. So it means H is 0, E is 1, L is 1, and the other L is L is 2. The other L is 1, is 3. While the O is 0, is 4. Sorry. Now, in JavaScript, strings and arrays has some similar methods, and this index of is one of them. Now, let me mention some of the methods that they have together. I thought we discussed. Yeah, common methods. There is index of. Let me copy them here. Index of. There's includes. We discuss includes, right? Yeah, we discuss includes. Includes methods on array. No, there's no shift. Okay. Okay, so now these are methods. If I let me give you an example of includes again. If I call it on strings, it's what I'm saying is what includes does is that it checks the substring if it is inside the string. It checks this is the substring. This LL is the substring. It checks if LL is inside this hello string that I defined. So if I call it again, you see the first one is index of it gives me the index. Then The other one is true. It says yes, it exists. That's why it gave me true. If I put another thing here on the includes, it's going to give me false, meaning it is false. It is not there. False means it can't find this string. It checks everything as a whole in one entity. So now we say that that data JavaScript has primitive types, and string is one of the primitive types. Primitive types is that they don't have class, so you can't, because they don't have class, they are not like the non-primitive. Non-primitives are the objects, the arrays, the functions, and objects has methods. Just like when you initialize your class, your class from an object, just like we discussed, you can define your curly bracket, your object. If you do something like this, here's your object. You can define anything. You can define things like this on them. These are objects. Alright. So you can call these methods. You can call the methods or the prop fields on your objects. You can call them, but because they are objects, they are non-primitive types. Okay, but for strings is part of the non-primitive. So why is it that we are able to call these methods on them? Normally in logic we are not supposed to do that, but JavaScript is doing something behind the scene for us here. And what it does is that there's something called when you create a string like this, the string literal. Behind the scene, JavaScript will do something like this for you. They will do something like this, like behind the scene, like you are not seeing it. They will do something like this. Do this, then because we are calling this index of, right? No, I think this two will come here. So because we alright, so because we created now we created a string, and we try to call index of object on the string. So string normally is not an object, it's not an object type. So normally this calling is supposed to fail, but JavaScript will do something for us. It will take this thing. If you see, we are using new here, and we are creating, it's just like we are calling a class. We are initializing a class object, just like we did on this here in our classes. It's just doing something like this, new and the name of the class, right? Yeah, just like as we used to define class, new and name of new and the name of the class. It is just doing the same thing here. New, it uses this string, and it's using new keyword and string. Now you now ask yourself, what is this string here? This string that starts with capital letter. It's a keyword, and this is the primitive wrapper object that we're talking about. This is what JavaScript uses. It uses it behind the scene too. They already have it. They've created it. It's inside. It's a built-in. So when you initialize your string like this, they do it behind the scene. Create this object. Create a string object using the string that you created. The string variable that you used to create your string. Then it creates. This is now an object. So this is now an object. It now takes this method that you are calling on this string. It takes it and call it on the method, on the new object that it created, the primitive object. It calls it. Then the result is what is going to show you here. It's going to give you here. The result is what is going to give you here. That's this RS result here. Then behind it is what you're going to see here. I don't know if this is what I explained, it makes sense. It's what you're going to see. So this is what we call primitive wrapper object. This new here, this new string here is a wrapper object. There is just to wrap it. Then if you It's almost the same thing for numbers. All right, number is primitive also. It's primitive, but you can do something like, you can see the methods you can run on numbers. So it's the same thing here. What JavaScript will do is that it will create temp, then do something like this, and give it the number. Then it will now call the method that you call on the class. All right, so this is what it does. When you do this thing behind the scene, JavaScript will do this for you so that your code will run. All right, JavaScript will do this for you and return this result to you here. All right, so I believe that wraps up the guys. If you need to call my attention to something, you can let me know, message me, just unmute and speak so I can hear you. So I hope we are getting the idea. Primitive, this is something we're going to use in TypeScript and the rest. So the final topic we're going to be discussing now on basics of JavaScript. No, I think the second to final, although the final is simple. So we're going to talk about async JavaScript. Let me see if it's my slides. Yeah, async JavaScript. What is async? Async means asynchronous. It means the communication is not synchronous and it is not immediate. What do we mean? If I want to fetch data, let's say I make an API call, I want to fetch data, and the data is taking time. All right, a synchronous process will wait for the data to come. Like I'm fetching the data from a network, from my, maybe I wrote a server, a code to fetch data from a network. A synchronous process will wait for the data to come to fetch and execute. But async call will not wait for the data to load. It will send the request, send it, execute other tasks while waiting for the request to return. If the data comes back, it will now take the data and do what you want to do with it. Okay, so async JavaScript, it's an important concept, and why JavaScript has async feature, async functionality is that JavaScript was initially built for the front end, and if you are using the browser, if you are browsing and maybe you click the button on a web page, you click the button and that button needs to fetch an information from another server somewhere. Maybe you are registering for JAMP, or you're filling a form or something, and you click the button and it needs to fetch an information from another server to populate on your page. If the JavaScript that is responsible for that request sent it and is waiting for the data for the request to return, it's going to hang that page. The page will hang. You won't be able to do any other thing. As far as you click that button, every other thing on that page will hang. Nothing again. You can't, if you're trying, you can't toggle any, like the sidebar. You can't toggle the sidebar because it will hang. It won't respond. You can't do any other thing again. You just wait till that request comes back. Pum. Then everything will start working. Alright. But JavaScript takes care of that. The async JavaScript takes care of that. So because of that, this if they leave it like that, it's going to users who enjoy using JavaScript on the browser. So that's why they implemented async JavaScript, in the sense that when you click the button,
Sorry, Chris, you are showing us another screen.
are you not seeing async JavaScript?
Okay.
Yeah, it's async JavaScript. I'm explaining. I'm just trying to let you understand the concept.
Okay. Sorry.
So async JavaScript is like when JavaScript has sent the request. All right, the request is going to fetch the data while the request is trying to get the data. Instead of your page to hang, instead of your page to hang, you can do any other thing. You can click a button, you can click the sidebar will respond open. You can scroll and check any other thing while the request is getting the data. So that is what async JavaScript does for you. Okay, now in the nutshell, asynchronous is like when your a request is being executed in the background while the executor is doing any other thing. Let's take for example, now you go to a restaurant to eat, to make an order. The chefs there, when they take a request, all right, when they take a request that is taken, no, let's say the waiter is the execute, like is the one that takes request and go to the backend to get any order you want. The waiter, when the waiter is there, when they take your order, all right, maybe you want to eat something and that it takes a little time to get prepared. When they take your order and give to the chef, they don't just wait for the chef to finish your order to bring before they will bring it to you. No, when they give the chef your order, they need to leave it with the chef, then attend to other customers. All right, so while they are attending to other customers, your request, your order is getting ready. They attend to other customers. Those that need just water, they will give them water. Those that need just drink, they will give them drink. Everybody is getting satisfied. Then when your order is ready, they will go back to the chef, get your order and bring to you. That is what async JavaScript does. When you are using JavaScript on the browser, if you click a button that needs to fetch a request, a data from a server that takes time, the JavaScript will not wait for the data to come back, will not wait for that request. They will still be available to, if you click a button, they will respond. If you do other thing, if you open the navbar, they will respond to you while they are waiting for that other fetch button you click to return the data. So that is what async JavaScript is. Now, JavaScript, if I'm reading from my slide here, JavaScript is single threaded. Like, it has one call stack. Has one call stack. Call stack is where all these functions we are writing, they are executed. All right. If you write your functions before everything executes, it puts them inside the call stack and it executes. It goes, it executes. So any language that has one call stack actually runs one task at a time. You can't run multiple tasks. Like that call stack, it just executes one utility, one function at a time. All right. So, but JavaScript has some other things that makes it able to do this asynchronous that I explained. It has some features, because when you give it a task to execute, like to fetch that data from the network, when you give it when you click that button for it to execute that task, it puts inside the call stacks, and when it's trying to execute it and it is the request is taking time, what does it do? It already has that task inside the call stack. Does it hang and wait for it to execute? No, it has to do something. What does it do? I will show us a diagram here. All right, can you all see this picture? Can you see this picture? Okay, white screen. Okay, guys, can you see my screen? So JavaScript has some components. Yeah, it has some components. JavaScript has some components that helps it to execute this asynchronous functionality. It has the call stack, like I told you. It has web API. It can either be browser or Node.js APIs that handles this process, and it has call stack, the callback queue, and it has a micro stack queue, event loop, and the rest. So let's see. So guys, let's have a look here now. Okay. All right, thank you guys for the whiteboard. Let me see if okay. Okay, let's demonstrate now. Let's say this is no, sorry. Okay, let's say this is the call stack, right? We have some things called the queue. Now let's say this is for if we let's say we send a request. Let's say this is our request. I can write to this. Okay. Now let's say our request takes time. All right. When we call JavaScript our request, it comes into the call stack. This is call stack. So it comes here. Is our request. Okay. So now when this request takes time, because it takes time, all right, we need to put it in a queue. This is micro task queue, and this is micro. This is a queue. These things you see here are queues. All right. So because this queue will take time, there's a way we write our code that since this thing will take time, we'll take this request and put it either in one of these queues. All right. We'll put it there. Now this queue will now be this call stack will now be empty to execute any other normal task that we have that does not take time. All right. So while it is doing that, it will execute any task that you put into it. It will execute any task you put into it. It will execute. Then it will. There's what we call event loop here. Let's go back to our diagram. I may not be explaining this thing the proper way. Now, the event loop is the process that continuously checks if the call stack is empty and moves moves queued tasks in. Guys, we're going to write a program that will demonstrate this thing that I'm explaining. So the event loop is symbolized. They symbolized it as something like this process that is in circular motion. So when we put that task that takes time, like to fetch requests from server or something from other server into our system, when we put it inside the call stack, we see that it will take time because it will be the process, what's it called, the JavaScript will take it and put it either inside this micro task queue or this callback task queue. Now when it puts it there, it will be executing on its own. Then any other process, any other function call, any other thing can be executed on the call stack that doesn't take time. So when the requests are coming and it's executing, when the call stack is empty, like nothing again is remaining to be executed, this event loop is continuously checking the call stack to see if it is empty. Anytime it is empty, the event loop will now take any process that is remaining on this queue, then put it inside the call stack to be executed. All right, that's what this event will be doing. So when I was explaining that if you click a button, it's like to fetch a data and it's taking time, right, and it's supposed to take time, then while you click the button and the request is being fetched, it means that the request is already on the task queue. Then if you click if you try to still interacting on your web page and you try to click the side, open the sidebar and do some other thing on the web page without it hanging, it means that those tasks, like if you click the sidebar, the task is being executed on the stack. It will execute, nothing will happen, it will go well. All right, So it means that the button to fetch data is not, the request to fetch data is not blocking the call stack. You can do every other thing because the process has been queued to execute on its own. Why any other process you are doing on the page, on your web page, JavaScript is executing it normally the way it's supposed to execute. Then when the data is ready, it will now be fetched. The web page will now execute it. Will now do whatever you want to do with the data. That's when the event loop has taken the queue, the tags, and put inside the call stack to execute it. So, guys, let's just do a coding example so that we understand all these things. Too much explanation. I don't think you guys are getting it. Let me see. All right. So let me call async JS. It's almost 4, guys. Please give me. Let me explain this topic. Then we'll discuss TypeScript. Then when we discuss TypeScript, we'll call it a day. Then next week we'll start from TypeScript, right? Then from TypeScript, immediately we'll finish. TypeScript will not be this lengthy with as JavaScript is. It's not going to be lengthy, I promise. It's not, because almost everything we're going to discuss, we've already discussed them in JavaScript. So then immediately we do TypeScript, we are going to Node.js proper, and we'll start running our APIs. That's when you enjoy this class. So guys, let's do this. All right, so I have something now. Okay, let's do this now. So guys, do I have extra minutes? Can I take this extra minutes? I know it's already 4.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This async JavaScript I explained, I don't think maybe we will get it, but this example I think it's going to help us to understand it now. Promise dot resolve. Guys, there's something I want us to know, right? You see, most of these things that I'm explaining to us is something you can actually get. Like if you browse on them, you browse about them, you can get them. You understand? So it's something. They are not something that are new. Okay, it's something you can get elsewhere. But why are you here? Why are you participating in this class? Why are you participating? The answer is that you have me to, like, if you have any issue you can ask me. Okay, it's live class 101. Those any resource you see out there, they are already prepared classes. You go through them. If you have any question, you can't ask anybody who prepared them unless you try to contact them. Okay, all right. But this live class is something that if you have question, any stupid question you can throw at me, we'll trash it together. All right, we'll try to answer our questions together. All right, I believe that's a good way to learn, and that's one of the I could have just create probably 3 hours video of this whole course and upload on YouTube. No, I decided not to do that. I just want us to come like one-on-one. Let's discuss, teach ourselves, and we'll learn. All right, so I think that's that. So now look at this code, guys. Look at this code. Now let me explain this timeout. I believe most of you must be seeing this timeout for the first time. This timeout. Now timeout is JavaScript function. It's in JavaScript. It's also in Node.js. They call it timer functions. We have timeout, set timeout. We have set interval also. So it's a function. What it does is that it will any function you give it. Let me put 3 here. if you give it a function and you give it a time, as you can see, this is a function, this is an arrow function. This thing I did here, it's an arrow function that console logs. It's an arrow function. This is where the arrow function definition starts. This is arrow function. All right, this is the
Sorry,
bracket.
sir, your screen has not changed.
Hold on, can't you see my screen? My VS Code.
It's still the white background. No, can't
Oh,
see.
hold on, let me. Can you see my VS Code now?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to show us what the async JavaScript does. All right, so I was trying to explain this timeout function. Is an inbuilt Node.js function. So what it does is that you give it a function to execute, and you give it a time. So it will execute that function after that time you gave it has elapsed, and you must specify the time in milliseconds. All right. Now it's a higher order function. Higher order functions are that can take takes functions as arguments or return functions when in their return value. So that those are higher order functions. All right, higher order functions. So set timeouts is one of them because it takes a function. You give it a function. This thing here, if I separate them here, this thing here that is separated by comma. This is the arrow function I am giving it, and this is the time I'm specifying, 3000 milliseconds. Okay, so it means that it should execute this arrow function I gave it on that after 3 seconds. Now this is promise. Promise is a keyword, is built-in function in JavaScript also. It has to do with the async functionality also. So we're going to use it when we're writing our project. Now this is normal console log. So I'm going to execute this. I'm going to run this code now. What do you think? How do you think this code is going to run? Since we know that JavaScript runs its codes from top to bottom. How do you think? What do you think is going to the console log is going to be in which order? What are we going to see first, and what are we going to see last, and what are we going to see in between? If any one of you can answer me, I would like it. I'll be glad. Hello guys, are we there? Hello guys.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I was asking about this. Are we following? I hope you are following.
Yes, yeah.
So, what order do you think this is going to be in? This code I wrote here. In what order do you think it's going to execute?
It's going to execute from the console log, that's from the start, and to do this function, to execute this function, and to execute the other one, promise, then it will end at that console log at the seventh line.
Okay, good. But so what you're saying now is that we're going to see start first, then
Yes.
the next thing we're going to see is this console log here. We're going to see console log next. Then we'll see promise resolved. Then we'll now see end. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, it's a nice guess. Okay, but this is it here. We are going to see this start first. Then the next thing we'll see is this end. Then the next thing we're going to see is this. This is the order in which this task is going to execute. Let's run it and see, then I will explain why that happens. Async. Yeah, you saw it, right? This is it. Starts, end, promise resolved, callback, timeout, callback. So do you know why this thing happened? So now, when JavaScript is executing, it started with this console log. The first console log starts. It takes it and puts inside the call stack. Inside its call stack, right? That's the execution, the function to execute. It puts it inside the call stack. Let's ignore this memory for now, and let's just leave them. The set timeout is part of this timers function I talked about. The set timeout is part of this timers here. Right, this one is just basically browser something. But let's pay attention to this call stack and this one and this one here. Okay, so when it sees this one, this console log dot starts, all right, dot log starts, it puts it here and it executes, no problem. All right, now it came to this. Now it saw this. What this means is that I want to call this function after 3 seconds. It doesn't. JavaScript does not execute this immediately. It takes this callback here, this callback function that I say you should run after 3 seconds. Takes it and puts it inside this queue. It puts it here. It does not put it inside the call stack. It puts the callback here and waits. All right. Now it gets to the next one. This is a promise resolve. All right. It needs to resolve to this console log function. This then is also a higher order function. So it takes this console log, this arrow function, and puts it inside, not inside this callback that we put the first one. It puts it inside this micro task queue. Then after putting it there, it doesn't put it inside the call stack. Then it comes to this place. It sees this is simple. It's just a console log. It takes it and puts inside the call stack and execute any task that is put inside the call stack. It's executed at once. All right. So when it has executed that one, the call stack is now empty. No task again is remaining. For this code I wrote, after executing this and queuing this and executes this, there's nothing again remaining to run in our code. There's nothing again. So it goes back. The event loop is checks that there's nothing again in call stack to execute. It now goes back and brings out it first. Since there's tags here and there's tags here, it takes priority over this one first before this one. Event loop takes priority over this micro task queue over this one. It takes the queue, the tags from here, which is this promise. This promise is the one that was added inside this micro tags. It takes it and it takes this promise resolve console log and puts it inside the call stack and executes. That's when we saw this promise resolved. All right. So after executing it, it checks again. The event loop checks again after executing that promise. It checks again. Nothing again is remaining to be done. It looks at the queue. There's another task left here, the set timeout task. It takes it and puts it inside the call stack. Then the call stack will now execute the callback. All right, that's how we have this separate information. The order is different, and that is how we do it. Because when we are writing our code, all right, if we want to fetch data from another server and that will take time, or want to do any performance task that is going to take time, we need to put it inside a promise. Put it inside a promise tells Node.js that take this task and put it inside a queue. We know that it's going to take time, so we are not expecting the answer immediately. Put it inside the queue and execute so that other things can be able to run. All right, so that's how async JavaScript works, guys. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask. I think I will need to introduce us to TypeScript now. We'll just have a brief discussion on TypeScript, then we can call it a day, guys. Do we have a question? Hello guys, do we have any question?
None from my end.
All
No
right, all right.
question.
Do you have any question? Okay, okay, no question. So guys, okay, so let's have a look at Node. We're supposed to look at modules, but let's skip that. So we are now for us to be able to discuss TypeScript, because TypeScript does not come natively with Node.js or even JavaScript, so we have to install it into our projects to be able to use it. So to be able to install TypeScript, we need to bring it in, install it into our project. To be able to do that, we need a package manager, something to manage our packages, because TypeScript, when you're installing anything inside your project, it is called a package. A package is like a code somebody has written and put out there, so you can go there, install it, import it into your own project and use it. All right, so when we are writing all these codes here, we didn't import any external. All this example we did here, we didn't import any external code. All right, so for us to for as we are introducing ourselves to TypeScript now, we need to understand how to install packages, dependencies. You can call it dependencies and the rest. So in Node, there's what they call npm. npm stands for Node Package Manager, as you can see in my slide. Hope you guys can see my slide.
Yes.
Okay, so Node npm is the default
Yes.
package manager for Node.js. All right, and it helps to install your packages from the code here, from the slides you see. Installs reusable code packages called modules or dependencies, manage your project dependencies and versions, run script and the rest. So when you create a project, you initialize it with npm, and when you create your npm project, you're going to get two folders in your project. So you're going to get a folder, folder and one file. The folder is going to call node modules, and the other one, the file is package.json file. Okay, so what are they? Node modules is the folder that npm creates for you. When you install your package, that's where the package you install is going to be kept, so that you mix it up with your own project code, your own project folder. So it's going to create a separate folder called node underscore modules, and put anything that you're installing from outside into your package, into your project. It should be installed there, so that anytime you want to use them, you just import. When you import, they will import it from there. All right, now package.json is a file that it helps you to keep track of your project. It will give you a field to name your project, and any dependency, any package you are installing to your project, it will going to keep record of them. All right, so this is npm, and this is the introduction. So guys, from next week, when we are going to install TypeScript, we're going to be discussing TypeScript. TypeScript is just basically the if I Google TypeScript, I want to finish up. Let me just if I do what is TypeScript. TypeScript normally is free. Okay, W3 Schools defined it as its syntactic superset of JavaScript which adds static typing. All right, so TypeScript is just a JavaScript but with types. Okay, so guys, we're going to be installing by next week. We're going to be installing it. If you have Node installed in your system, you don't need npm. You don't need to install npm. Is automatically installed with Node. Okay, so we're going to be using something like this. If I do npm -v, you're going to see the version. Yes, it is. The version I'm using is 10.8.2. So npm is the command. Since as we use node to run our script, npm is the command we're going to be using to install packages. All right. So guys, thank you guys for your patience. I'm going to upload the video. I will share my slides. So guys, I'll also share this code example, but I will share the one, like the robust one that I am taking from to demonstrate. Okay, I'm going to share it so that you guys will have a better understanding of what I'm doing and look at it very well. Please practice, guys. Practice. So by next week, by God's grace, hopefully by next week, after introducing TypeScript to us, we'll go into Node.js. Then from Node.js, we'll create our APIs. I believe that's where our work will start from. Then I'll likely introduce us to the project I'll be building with us. All right, the project I'll be building with us. Then we'll see it. Then we're going to be building those projects. All right. We install the packages. We create the APIs. When we create the APIs, we integrate the database. When we integrate the database, we populate data, we query, we get responses. Then we integrate, we write tests, unit tests, it tests. When we run tests, we now integrate, we dockerize it. When we dockerize it, we now add Redis to it. Then we now add Kafka. Then when we finish with Kafka, then we are done. All right. Then with that knowledge, I may now ask us to, okay, let's look for something to work on. With knowledge you've acquired, look for something to work on. Then I'll be there to help out. If you have questions, if you want to show me what you've worked on, good. So that's basically what we're going to do. All right. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you for everything. So I've introduced JavaScript. I just gave us a glimpse of JavaScript. By next week, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be working on JavaScript. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for everything. I'll see you guys next week. So if you have any question, message me. Don't be afraid. If you have any issue bothering you, message me if I'm free. Although I work from Monday to Friday. If I'm free, I'll set up a meeting. We'll trash out any bug you have. All right. So guys, thank you for your time and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you so much, sir. God bless you, sir. Thank you
And
for
you
your
too, my
effort.
brother. Thank you.
Sir,